Tantra is essentially a series of methods or practices that lead you to your own awakening or enlightenment. You live directly in the Dharma, in the moment, and your guiding principle is the energy within yourself, or is existence directly. You're not guided by a set of rules, by culture, by dogma, by what other people think you should be doing with your life. You're not guided by this at all anymore. Many people think that they are the master of their own lives, that they themselves choose what they wish to do with their life, and they don't realize how much conditioning they've received, which then dictates what they choose with their life, what work they do choose, who they choose to marry, when they make love, how they make love. Tantra wants to remove all this stuff that's been put in your head about how you're supposed to live and who you're supposed to be. And when it's empty, when it's been removed, then you respond to the moment as you are and as the moment is, not from the past, not from what you've been told about how to be in the moment from the past, but from this moment as it is now. And that's what Tantra wants for your being, but how does it achieve that? And what is the ultimate spirituality of a human being if not to have a direct experience with existence itself, with spirit itself, with yourself, which is existence and spirit too? So Tantra would suggest this is the flowering of spirituality. When you are in direct communion with existence, without the middleman of a priest or even a guru or even a Dakini, when you are in direct experience with this moment and with yourself, this is the flowering of spirituality. This moment now, this present moment. We have come to Varanasi to find the origins of Tantra. We sail down the holy Ganga river in search of Shiva. Shiva founded the city of Varanasi. And one has to wonder at the energy of the man, or the presence of the man, that founded a city that has managed to now become the oldest living city on earth. What was this energy that began this city? And as Tantrikas, we've come here to ask this question in search of Shiva. This is the land of Shiva. This is the city of Shiva. This is the holiest of holy cities. And it's the beginning of Tantra. To understand how this arose, how Shiva arose and Varanasi out of Shiva, it's helpful to understand how the mind works and how, out of the working of the mind, different religions form. So, the human mind finds it very difficult to accept any moment in totality, or to accept the rising of oneself in totality. There's always a duality. So in this moment, I accept the feeling of love, but when the feeling of hate arises in me, I reject it. In another moment, I accept the feeling of joy, but when the feeling of sorrow arises in me, I reject it. And the same with the feminine and the masculine aspect of our being. When we accept the feminine, we reject the masculine energy. And then we accept the masculine, and at that time we will reject the feminine energy. And how this looks in the history of our planet is when we're accepting the feminine and embracing the feminine energies, the goddess religions are dominating. And when we're accepting the masculine energy, the god religion or patriarchy dominates. So several thousand years ago, the feminine was deeply accepted. The earth was seen as the mother, and everything came from her and flowed from her. And there was a celebration of this, an acceptance of this femininity, acceptance of the mother, and in the full realization of this, the acceptance of the goddess. And the goddess was worshipped in many, many different places, and entire civilizations were centered around the goddess religions. And these civilizations were formed and organized and ruled by women. And there was much beauty in that, in the unraveling of that femininity, in the unraveling of the devotion to the goddess energy. But naturally, there was also a rejection of the masculine energy. So, in many of these civilizations, men were seen only for their use, their capacity to be physical laborers, their capacities to go fight wars and die without much concern or care whether these men lived or died. And so, of course, eventually the men of these cultures will reject the goddess religion. They will overthrow the goddess religion and come into their own power and start to worship the masculine, start to praise the masculine, and the god or the patriarchy religions come into being. Judaism begins to form, and that gets stronger, and out of that Christianity comes, and then Islam arises. And these, in the beginning it's subtle and slow, and there's a bit of a mix, and slowly they become to dominate the planet, and the feminine is completely rejected. So it's almost like a seesaw, or it's swinging from one paradigm to the other, completely embracing the feminine, then completely embracing the masculine, and completely rejecting the other. But there are times in civilization where the civilization begins to reach a peak, and the intelligence of human beings rises, and within us we start to look at one another, and as women we don't reject the men, and men stop rejecting the woman or the feminine. We start to embrace both the masculine and the feminine at the same time. At some points in civilizations this happens. And this started to happen several thousand years ago, when the culture of the Dravidian was very strong, and Shaktism. So the Dravidian were more the Lingam worshippers, the god worshippers, and Shaktism was more around worshipping the feminine, worship of the Yoni. But they existed at the same time, and they weren't in conflict or in war with each other. Neither rejected the other. Perhaps they would meet and have a cup of chai. And out of this time, when both the feminine energy and the masculine began to be embraced, Shiva arose. He awoken. He found his enlightenment, when his enlightenment found him. Because if the feminine principle within yourself is realized, the goddess is realized within you. And if the masculine principle is realized within you in totality, the God is realized within you. And if both are received and accepted, then a magnificent love affair happens within your being. The God and the goddess meet, and there is the divine union. And in this divine union, a love arises in your being and overflows. A deep presence also arises within you. And that is when Shiva arose. And such a presence arose in Shiva that he founded the city Varanasi, which is now the oldest living city on the planet, and is the holiest of holy cities that embraces all the religions of India. And in this arising of Shiva, in this integration, in this acceptance of the masculine and the feminine, Tantra was born in India. And here we find the source of Tantra. At this moment, in the peak of civilization, where the masculine and the feminine were accepted. And now on Earth again, we come again to a time where we are beginning to accept, in many places in the world, we are beginning to accept the masculine energy and the feminine energy together. It's not in any kind of totality, but it's certainly becoming allowed. And in this possibility on Earth, with this allowing and acceptance of both energies, a new spirituality has arisen on Earth that has come from a very ancient religion called Tantra. Around the 7th century AD, a new expression of Tantra arose in India. A new flowering of Tantra arose in India. And this expression arose around the center of India and then spread in all directions, even going as far as Tibet and China. But where we stand today is in Khajuraho, which is one of the most beautiful expressions of Tantra that one can still see anywhere on Earth. And as we walk in these temples, we can see that they celebrate all aspects of being. And there's many moments where there's a great show-off. The women are showing off all their curves, and the men are showing off their power. One can only imagine the acceptance of humanity that happened in Khajuraho. All aspects of being were embraced here, and this great celebration arose. And there was such a great celebration that for hundreds of years, hundreds and hundreds of years, artists expressed the most intimate, delicate, exquisite details of every aspect of humanity that you can imagine. And this is one of the major points of the rising of Tantra, and there were many other trails of Tantra and waves of Tantra through India at that time. And then around about the 12th century, there were various different kinds of invasions, and the largest invasion came from the Muslims, and for the most part, they destroyed the temples, 60 out of the 80, and the people of the area fled, and nothing was left except the temples, but not the life, not the celebration, and not the work. And throughout India, this came about, where the peak of Tantra, the flowering of Tantra, met a death of a sort and disappeared from Earth for the next several hundred years in its true essential form.
खुशी के रंग देखो हर दिल में कैसे समायो सावन आयो खुशी के रंग देखो नैनों में कैसे समायो सावन आयो.
When I first heard about Tantra, I thought it was some weird, new age, cultish thing. Too out there for me, and so I kind of dismissed it for a few years, but slowly it came into my consciousness and called me more and more. And so I looked all over the world, and I couldn't find Tantra anywhere in the world, and the only place I could find Tantra was in Pune, India, at the Osho Center. So I decided to come along and find out what Tantra was about. And I flew in from South Africa, and there was a Tantra course happening at the Osho Center. And they needed an interview. There was a prerequisite interview. So I went for my little interview with the two sannyasins who would be my facilitators for the Tantra course. At the prerequisite interview, after the first interview, they told me that they couldn't accept me into the Tantra course. So, of course, I burst into tears. So they said, okay, they're going to think about it. And the next day I thought, well, I can't fight them on it. People at Osho Center are clearly very stubborn and have very specific ideas about how things should be and what they want. So I'll just do my thing around the ashram and wait for them. And they came back to me and they said, okay, come along. This is how my Tantra journey began. Doing a Tantra group at the Osho Center in Pune, India. And this also is where I met Osho. Not Osho in the body, he had left his body several years before, but the work of Osho, the teachings of Osho, the legacy of Osho. And of course, his lovers, his sannyasins. My initial response to meeting Osho was boredom and rejection. And all kinds of questions and doubts, and who says he's enlightened, and how can he be enlightened, and wasn't he just some fake guy? And then I heard Osho speaking about how when you first meet Osho, when you first meet a guru, you're gonna have the same response as you'd have with what your relationship with your father is. And that made sense because I'd had a very tumultuous relationship with my father, and there had been a lot of push-pull and rejection, etc. So this is what I was feeling with Osho, and slowly I started to hear his words and find a relaxation and begin to hear the truth of where Osho was coming from. And my love affair with Osho began. Osho was what made all of this possible. Osho is who brought Tantra to the West, is who made the center possible, who made it possible for me to do this Tantra workshop, for me to begin moving through the many taboos I had created in my mind around my body and my love, the way I love physically, the way I make love, whom I love, why I love, what I think love is. He opened that door for many, many thousands and thousands of people. And so that's where my journey began, and for many people, that's where their journey will begin. Namaste, Osho. The most simple definition of the word Tantra means method or practice. And essentially, Tantra is a series of methods or practices that will lead to your awakening or your enlightenment. And the central tenet of this tantric practice is acceptance of yourself in this moment. Tantrikas are all about yes, how to say a deeper yes to who they are, how to say a deeper yes to what is happening in the moment. And the Sanskrit has a most beautiful word to describe this, which is tatyata. And tata means the yes that has no. It's a yes without any doubt, without any no to the moment. And Tantra facilitates your path until you find the moment in which you're in the totality to saying yes to who you are, and you're in the totality of saying yes to this moment as it is. the West, we have something that has arisen which one could call Neo-Tantra, or the Tantra that happens before you meet Tantra in its essence. In the West, the most prevalent beliefs and conditioning has been around sexuality. The sexuality has been vilified, deified, denied, not allowed. Your pleasure has been something that is not acceptable. And for a long time, the sexual energy has simply been refused. So when Tantra says we need to start looking at our conditioning and our beliefs that we have collected that prevent our natural being from flowing into this moment, we'll begin with the most obvious, of course. And the most obvious is in the West is around the sexual energy, and that this energy has not been allowed. And so how Neo-Tantra comes into being is it becomes very focused on the most obvious. And so in the West, it looks like Tantra is all about better sex, better orgasms, more pleasure, more energy, more bliss. So to give you a different contrast, to have a deeper understanding, in India, Neo-Tantra is very much about black magic, spells, personal power. It has a very dark slant to it, in fact. People are quite afraid of it. And what you notice about the Indian mind and the Indian culture is that the personal power has been very denied. You have been born into a certain caste, and if you're born of that caste, and if you're a swordsman, that is your job, and that will be your job for your entire life. If you wish to rise above that in some way or find some individual expression, it's frowned upon. So this is one of the major aspects of mind in India. And so in India, Neo-Tantra has become about and focused on personal power, black magic, perhaps hurting another person for your own power, which of course is very much denied in the culture, and spells and such things. Tantra is certainly for finding the depth of your sexual energy and allowing that into your being. And Tantra is certainly for finding the expression of your individuality and the personal power or presence in the moment. But it's not about focusing on any one area in particular. It's about finding that in yourself and then moving to the next level of awareness in your being, finding the totality of that, and again moving to the next level in your being. And if you take, for example, black magic or personal power, when you move to the totality of that expression, you simply find a very powerful presence in the moment, and your willingness to stand in who you are as an individual being, regardless of what all the culture expects of you or demands of you. That will be the fullness or the totality of that expression. But when it's practiced in Neo-Tantra, I get stuck in the petty little spells and the trying to grab power here and trying to grab power there, because the mind still hasn't understood that there isn't a scarcity of power and that there isn't anything to grab. There is no need to grab the power. That power or energy is an abundant aspect of the universe. But when one gets stuck in that because of where the cultural mind is, one won't realize that. One gets stuck in that loop, and that's what the Neo-Tantra is about. As in the West, where one gets stuck in the sexual energy, then you get people calling themselves tantric sex masters or tantric sex gurus. And it all becomes about who can have the most orgasms. And you go to tantric groups and it's almost as if people are competing with each other to see who's the most orgasmic or has the most energy flowing through them. And when that totality of that expression is realized, when the sexual energy is flowing through your being, then there's simply a dancing with the moment to moment, meeting the moment in your flow and in your dancing as the sexual energy flows through you. And it's not about a competing, it's not about a proving, it's not about a grabbing or seeking for more pleasure, bigger pleasure. Again, within the West, it's always about more and bigger. So then the sexual energy, the mind starts wanting to find more and bigger sexual energy. And this is where the Neo-Tantra has got stuck in the West. Once the culture has been given enough time to sink into this denial of their being. And they're given enough time and space to explore the various avenues and start finding the truth of this energy. Then again, they will embrace the ancient ways of Tantra, which is not simply about reclaiming one aspect of your being, as in the West, the sexual, but the entire aspect of being. And so the ancient way of Tantra will re-emerge on Earth and become available as human beings find their awareness and become available to it. Namaste. Who's been brought into, who's had a lot of influence from Christianity, might think that sannyas is about submitting your will to another and following them blindly and gathering their beliefs and their dogma and taking it as your own without any kind of, not necessarily any knowing of your own, just blind trust in the guru and not any direct knowing of your own. So I've been thinking a little bit how to describe sannyas in India. What is taking sannyas here in India about? And the one metaphor I came to was if there's a thunderstorm and the clouds are full, they're full of their water, they're full of their juice, and they're about to burst and give their water to the earth. And the rain comes pouring down. If you take the metaphor of sannyas, if you take sannyas, you move out of the structure of this building, of your home, and you go and stand under the rain and you get flooded by the rain. So taking sannyas is the willingness to step out of the structure or the structures of your mind and step into the rain, the showering of the presence of the teacher, the guru you're with. The clouds and the rain have no mind, and it makes no difference to the cloud or the rain whether you step into the rain or not. No difference at all. To the guru, whether you choose to take sannyas or not, or whether you want to or not, or whether you do or not, is not important. He's not looking for followers. He has come to a place where, or she has come to a place where there's no mind, and there's simply an overflowering presence and an abundance of rain. And you can choose to step under the rain and be drenched in it, or you can choose to stay inside your house. The rain doesn't mind, the house doesn't mind. So, sannyas is simply you stepping into the rain, into that showering, into that blessing. And what I know of this sharing of this energy as I've stepped into the energy within myself is if somebody comes and sits with me and asks me to help them, facilitate them on their tantric path, if someone comes and they're full of fear and structure and no's and they sit with me, the energy doesn't flow towards them. But if someone comes and sits with me and they come with a deep sincerity and a great willingness and openness and a wanting to learn what is to be learned from me, my energy starts to rise in my body and it pours out of what one can call the heart chakra. And it becomes like this liquid gold pouring out of me that I don't have any control over it. It's not like you can come and you're feeling a bit closed and let me give you a little bit of an experience of this, of what it would be like if you were open and I can open and let this energy pour into you. I can't do that. I have no control whatsoever. The only thing that turns this tap on and off, in terms of whether you feel it or not, is your openness and receptivity. So you can come and sit with the guru or the teacher in openness and receptivity and feel that outpouring, that abundant energy, which will then call or alchemize your energy, which is within your being, or not. And of course, if you already know it, if you have already a direct experience of this energy, if you're already in direct communion with existence, then you would never come to me. Why bother? You are in that place already. There's no need for you to come to the guru, the Dakini, the SkyDancer, who's dancing in this flowering energy pouring through her. There's no need. But if you are sitting with her, or him, then try and come with some willingness and some receptivity. And sannyas takes your willingness and your openness to some new place of totality. It's like you're saying to your mind, I don't care, mind, what resistance you have or what ideas you have about this. I'm staying in my openness. I want to learn what this being has to teach me. Because your mind will come with many objections to this. And what sannyas then does in this moment, it shows you the structures of your mind. If you surrender to this tree over here, and you go, I surrender to the tree, this beautiful tree, whatever this tree wants to teach me, to simply be and be shade and follow my own growth. It's not very difficult to surrender to a tree. You're not going to meet many structures in your mind, or surrender to this moment with the tree. But if you want to see the structures of your mind, if you want to see your resistance to this moment, then make it a little bit more something that your mind's going to resist, like a woman or a man. And now you must come and be open to this person who you don't even really know very well. Then the structures of your mind get revealed. Then your mind is revealed. Because ego mind is resistance. Resistance is ego mind. So it's a method to help you reveal the structure you call mind. So it's twofold. On one level, and this is why when I first came to Pune 9 years ago, or 8 years ago, and I came across Osho, I had a great deal of resistance to begin with. But that slowly or quickly melted over a few weeks, actually. And then I started to hear his words and feel the energy of Osho, even though his physical presence was no longer at the center. And I started to feel a transformation beginning. But somehow for me, to reveal the structures of my mind, I needed a living master, a living guru. But there it was kind of easy to go, oh wow, what an amazing man, I love Osho. He wasn't there in my face, provoking my mind structures, provoking my resistance. So I went and found a living master and found my sannyas with him. And that is part of the huge journey of my life, where my mind's resistance, the structure of mind, the ego, began to become very revealed. And as I was able to enter, all right. So I got hit on the head by a bird, big bird. Also a guru. So if you come to the Guru with some deep sincerity and openness, you'll meet his energy. It'll flow into you. If you don't, it won't. Simple. It's up to you. And the method, the tantric method of sitting with the Guru, because he's pretty sharp, remember? He's been there, he's seen it, he's done it. Or she has. If the ego itself, the sum total of ego, is the sum total of your resistance to this moment, in your sannyas that will be revealed to you. Your resistance to this moment will be revealed. And what I found for me to go completely into my resistance in this moment, which is called for in order for it to be revealed, I had to be with a living being. Not some idea in my head or some beautiful idea. Because if he's not here in front of you, if she's not here in front of you, it's still an idea. And it's easier to take sannyas with the idea than with someone who you can get to know in the flesh and bones and blood. You get to know where your mind thinks they certainly are not Guru or Dakini, and still find in yourself that this being is going to take you to a new awareness, that this being is going to reveal your resistance to this moment. And when you're able to meet them in your openness and your love and your sweetness, able to say yes to them, and they're tough, that's like your practice. Then you go into your life and you meet life, you meet existence with the same openness, the same yes, the same tatyata, the sannyasin word for the yes without no. Then existence pours into you. And then there is no more mind. But these things take time, and they take a deep willingness from you. But it is the first step, and an essential step in the path of Tantra. Namaste. Namaste, 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 Osho. I feel a great love for Osho coming back to Pune, and a great fullness and recognition for what he began in me. So I recognize him in this moment very much too. In many of the spiritual paths, when someone takes sannyas, it is mostly with a guru or a man. Most of the gurus have been men, and most sannyas has been with men. But in Tantra, we have what's called a Dakini, or the English of that is SkyDancer. So for a woman to be a SkyDancer, her energy has to rise into her heart, and then her dancing begins, which isn't about her mind, which isn't about what she thinks dancing should look like. It's the dancing of existence within her being. So in Tantra, there's a lineage of sky dancers. And in Tantra, you can take your sannyas with a sky dancer, with a woman. And in the totality of this, in Tantra, when the sincerest seeker arrives, you become the lover of the Dakini. And in becoming the lover of the Dakini, she will slowly, over time, guide you in becoming the lover of existence itself. Any resistance you have, she will show you. She'll guide you through it. She'll show you your no, because your no to her is your no to yourself. Your no to her is your no to this moment. Your no to her is your no to this existence. Wherever you don't trust her, you don't trust life. And she will show you these places, and she will guide you through them. Until one day you find yourself dancing in joy, in this moment, in your own energy, in your own truth, in your own being. And then you no longer need any guidance. And the sky dancer's job is complete when she has shown you how not to need her anymore, how to follow the direction of your own being, of your own love, of your own energy, then she's done her job. Her job, in a way, she gets to fire herself if she does her job right. And this is the way of sannyas in Tantra. Finding sannyas with an awakened woman, with a woman who has realized her own energy, her own being, her own flowering. And then she can guide you to that within yourself. So this is the way of sannyas. It's a great love affair. And when you have practiced well with her and moved beyond practice, move to the real, move to the moment with her, then you will move to the moment with existence. And then all of existence becomes your beloved, as it has always been. Today we sit in Sanat, where Buddha gave his first sermon. Actually, he gave his first sermon right behind me, right over here. And the central tenet of Buddha's teaching was that your desire will lead to suffering. And many people have used this as a guiding principle in their spiritual or religious life. Now in Tantra, we also are very interested in desire, but we come from quite a different place. Where we come from with desire is that the desire or the energy that leads you to feel desire or wanting is actually existence trying to guide you into your life. But there is a dilemma or a difficulty here. There is the desire of mind and the desire or the urge of existence or dharma. So I'll explain a little about both of them. The desire of mind comes from the conditionings, the beliefs of your cultural environment. So your culture might teach you that you must only want to be with one person sexually if perhaps you're Christian, or to have much money is really important, to have big social standing is really important, and you get taught these things from very young about what you are supposed to desire. So they're not so interested in what you actually desire and what's actually wanting to happen in you. They're more interested in what they believe you're supposed to look like, dress like, who you're supposed to love, who you're supposed to marry, what you're supposed to eat, how you're supposed to make love, when you're supposed to make love. And so you get given a lot of different kinds of information. Your mind gets filled with a lot of different kinds of information about what you're supposed to desire and want in your life. And so what happens then is the existence, or the Dharma. Now, Dharma is a very, very beautiful word. Dharma means the true way, or the true path. That the Dharma is what existence actually wants your life to be. How existence wants to guide you into the expression of life, the true expression of your being, of who you are. So now this begins to arise in your body, but you get told, you've been told many different things in your mind, so there's a conflict. Now, when you go against the Dharma within yourself, the Dharma is arising, trying to guide you into life, the energy is arising, and you've been told that what you want isn't so relevant. What arises in you is either not that important, and often they even tell you it's wrong or bad, evil, against God, against your parents, against your family, your friends. So you have some urge arising in you, and then your mind comes in and says, no, that's not what's meant to happen. So you push the urge of existence away. So that gets pushed away, and instead you follow what you've been taught you're supposed to do. Now this is when desire arises. A very simple example is the urge, the Dharma of your body is to eat some food. Now you want to eat something, and this is natural. And for some reason you don't answer that urge, you don't answer the Dharma. And then the desire of hunger arises. You become very hungry, you become greedy for food, you become obsessed with food. Because if you refuse a thing, you're going to build the energy for it. You're going to step out of the Dharma, out of the natural place of eating when you're hungry, not eating when you're not hungry, and that's just the natural way of the Dharma. You refuse that because now you must eat when the times of eating are for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and you must eat according to the culture instead of according to what your body's asking for. And so desire arises. Naturally, the same thing will happen with all expressions of your life, including your sexual expression, your artistic expression, your work, your expression to go into the world and give your energy, your right livelihood or your right work. So in Tantra, we go, okay, perhaps your initial desire you're feeling in your body is guided more by your mind than by the Dharma. But we've got to work with what we got. And that's all we got. We got what's happening in you right now, with the desire right now. We don't have the Dharma moving through you because you've been refusing that your whole life. You've been told that's wrong. So we must work with the desire, with where you're at and what you've got. So in a Western mind, if somebody says they're interested in orgy, most times they're going to meet with judgment and this is a perversion or something ugly, or perhaps it's just some kind of insatiable sex addict. You know, there's a lot of judgment in terms of this kind of desire. But in our more primitive communities in the world, often they would have an orgy in the community at least once a year and sometimes several times a year. And what this did was that it actually brought the community together. The community sharing their love with one another in such an intimate manner brought the sense of tribe and family to a really deep and real expression. Unlike the expressions of our modern day communities, which you hardly even talk to your neighbors. So somebody having a desire or a longing where the energy starts to rise and it goes, I want that, and you trust that, and you go into it with awareness, not with just the hungry dog, but with bringing your awareness to the moment of the orgy. What you may find is what you're really wanting is to express the depth of your love in a far greater way than just with one other person. And in the community where everything is so closed, the wanting is to open the community. The wanting is for the old tribal way. The wanting is to share your intimacy and your love with many people and recognize that your family is not a small, nuclear, little, tiny bond family, but it's actually everyone. And in this great sharing of love, you come closer to that truth. And at some point, you may not even desire orgy so much anymore if you've gone into it with a great awareness and met how deeply your love actually love is an expansive quality. It's a sharing quality. It brings a great intimacy between people. So when you share love on a deep physical level with many people, you may begin to find out what your longing is truly about. The longing for this community, this family of people that love on a very real and deep level. Not a superficial, hi, how are you? Would you like a drink? Far deeper and real level than that. So in this way, when we follow our desire and we trust it, it reveals to us many different aspects of the moment that we've been longing for. So desire in Tantra is seen as the carrot of existence. Feel your desire, feel your urge. Here's the carrot, here's your learning, here's where your awareness wants to open. Yeah, follow it. It's a pull. It's drawing you into the moment. And if you refuse it, if you refuse this desire, it builds, it gets strong, and it gets uncomfortable. And you start to feel a suffering. Just like when you feel a strong desire to eat food, it's time to eat, and you refuse it, you're going to feel a great hunger, and that's going to be your suffering. Well, suffering happens in this way on many, many different levels. So we first, but remember, we must first move through the desire of the mind which has been formed by the beliefs of the culture that often have got nothing to do with existence or the Dharma, your true way that is arising in you. And for us to discern the difference, there's a Sanskrit word, it's vivek. It means a discernment that arises out of your awareness. Because in the moment you can feel an urge, and after a while of practicing Tantra, we begin to practice vivek, the discrimination or the discernment. Is this urge coming from something my culture taught me I'm supposed to want? Or is this urge coming from the deeper Dharma, the deeper river of existence that is running through my being, guiding me into the most beautiful flowering of my expression that I could never imagine? Which one is it? And we only can begin to understand Vivek, or the discernment between mind and Dharma, once we start the practice of actually following our desire. And often you'll follow your desire and you'll find out, wow, that really was a mind, it came from my mind, it came from my culture. So in the practice of following your desire, you find the Vivek, you find the discernment between this desire is coming from mind and this desire is coming directly from existence, from Dharma, and urging me into the expression of my life. But the energy of desire is all existence has to guide you into your life. People constantly want guidance and they have it in their body, but they've been told desire is wrong and bad, so they push this guidance away, and what are they left with? So Tantra says, no, come back, wait a moment. Let's call that guiding principle back into our lives. And the only way we can call it back into our lives is to say yes to it. If you keep saying no to it, you're just going to remain in your suffering and you're not going to be guided. So when you begin with Tantra, we're going to ask you to start feeling your desire, trusting it a bit, exploring it with awareness. And over time, your practice will lead you into Vivek, discrimination or discernment between the arising of the mind wanting or the arising of the urge of existence within your being. And in time, in great practice, in great awareness, you will come to a place where you won't even have to ask anymore. You'll just feel the urge of existence rising you, and you will answer that and express into your life. And then your life becomes a flowering, it becomes a beauty, because if existence is the director of your life, then you cannot put your foot wrong. Your expression will always be the expression of existence and the beauty of existence. And then the question between desire and Dharma is no longer relevant to you. There is only this moment and answering this moment in the totality of your being, in the totality of your yes. And there will be no more judgment into what wants to happen in you. You'll simply trust that this now, existence wants this to happen in this moment. And you will follow that. But yes, you will go through some perhaps strange experiences or taboo experience or unusual experience. And these will all be very helpful and good for your practice, for your mind to begin dropping its control and command of your energy, and for existence to take its rightful place in your being. Love yourself. This seems to be a core method of many spiritual teachings to find who you truly are. But what is loving yourself, and where do you even begin? How do you approach this? In Tantra, we literalize this. We go directly into loving yourself. And when I say literalize, we make love to ourselves.
So this lovemaking encompasses your entire body. There's nothing to leave out. It's a ritual of loving all of you. So to just gently show you a little bit how I might begin this process. Okay, so already my kundalini, the energy is starting to move through my body as I start to touch myself in a really loving way and embrace myself and greet myself this morning. So this little bit of touching I showed you of myself is a deep meeting with myself, and I embrace my hands as I would my lover's hands. And I would spend much time on it. It's not a quick thing. I would really take time to call the energy up my legs, towards my yoni, and as I build the energy into the yoni, I would then call it up towards the heart, where then it can find its expression, and the energy starts to grow, and the kundalini starts to grow, and eventually I'll be in the full orgasmic space of when the energy reaches my heart, and the flowering of the energy, or the flowing, the showering, like a waterfall, starts to happen from my heart. But these things take time and willingness. And this method, if you go very deeply into it, with as much willingness as you have and as much acceptance as you have, it will translate from literally loving your body and yourself to loving yourself on a much deeper level. And it will literalize into accepting the moment as it is, accepting yourself as it is. So it's a very simple practice, loving yourself, but it has great consequences. As you are able to learn to love yourself in your aloneness, then you can perhaps share this with another, and you can share this energy with another. And also in the learning to love yourself in a very beautiful and full way, you'll be able to love the other in the same way, with the same awareness, with the same totality, and with the same acceptance. And in that acceptance of yourself and of the other with you, then there's a flowering of beauty in your lovemaking that you cannot imagine possible. Enjoy. In order to take this to the next level, we have to start to reclaim our energies on a very deep and core level. For women, the place we speak of is the place of the yoni. The yoni. When we speak of the yoni, we're speaking of the very core of the femininity. So certainly it includes the external genitalia, but then it goes deeper through the vagina, including the uterus, including the very roots and depths of the genitalia. So when a woman begins to reclaim this aspect of herself, the awareness must include the entire area. For many women, we've been told we've been given so many negative stories about this part of our body that as the reclamation begins, you're going to be hitting much mind about many, many, many stories. This part of the body is often very much denied. This part of the being is often deeply denied. And there's all kinds of stories around a woman's genitalia, shame and dirt and even goes to the core of who she is as a human being. That if she's in too deep of an acceptance of this part of her, and she's in too deep of an expression of it against the culture, words like whore or slut get given to her. The true power of the yoni, the ultimate power of the yoni, is the power of receptivity. It's the place where the woman receives. If you cannot receive, you cannot give. So when you cut your receptivity away, you cut your giving away. When you cut the receptivity away in the yoni, you cut your capacity to move to the deep orgasmic of the showering of love that wants to happen from the heart. But this cannot happen in the heart area if the yoni is cut off. It's not possible. So, for a woman to reclaim this, she must begin to go into a deep meditation and reconnect the yoni as if this is her oldest and dearest friend. So a very beautiful meditation for women, which is helpful in reclaiming this aspect of being, is to imagine the yoni as the receptive vessel of existence itself. And the more the yoni is in trust and openness to existence, the more the energy pours through into the yoni. Whether it's in this moment as I sit with you, and I take a deep breath and I feel the energy start to move through me, or whether it's in lovemaking with my beloved and I'm receiving his energy through my yoni. My yoni opens, it receives the energy, and slowly, as my openness and my understanding unfolds, the energy will begin to move up the channels of my body until finally, after some time, it moves to the heart chakra. And the sexual energy alchemizes into this heart energy. And a great flowering happens. And this is where I reach, and you too will reach the expanded orgasmic state. And in the flowering of the heart energy, one says the lotus opens, and a great showering of your love pours from you. There is no greater orgasm. And this is when you know what they speak of of ecstasy and bliss. And this is the tantric meditation to return you to your original self, your true being, and your tatyata, to this moment, existence, the beloved, and yourself. Namaste. To reclaim the core aspect of masculinity, you must reclaim the lingam. When I speak of the lingam, I'm not only speaking of the external genitalia, but I'm also speaking of the deep core root of genitalia that in fact goes very, very deep into the being of man. And for men to move deeply into lovemaking and into life, the awareness must start to find the depth of the lingam. And the lingam is where men give from. And there has been so much judgment about how men give, about how men hunger for lovemaking, how men are horny beasts, how men only want sex. There's been so much judgment around the sexuality of man that for men, they have cut off the lingam in the fullness of its expression. So for men, once the love has entered the heart area and the giving wants to happen through the lingam, they are unable to do this because there's so much judgment in their wanting to give of their sexual energy, in their wanting to spread and share their sexual energy into the world. What really wants to happen is a man wants to give of his love. He wants to give of himself. And this is the method, or this is the way in the man's body that he gives of himself, that he gives of his love, is through the lingam. So if he's denied this place in himself to some level, then he's also denying his capacity to give into the world, to move into the world. A man will initially receive in the heart chakra, this is where he receives from, and as it moves from him, as his love is received in the world, the heart will open more, and this cycle can deepen, and his capacity to be in it will deepen, and his capacity to give will deepen as he allows himself to give from the lingam area. And if this is blocked, if this is not allowed, the heart of the man will close as well. It cannot be that this is closed and this is open. If he's not allowed to give his love, if there's judgment and conditioning around the giving of the love of man, the heart will close too. So it's essential that the man begins to reclaim the lingam in all its fullness. A man's meditation is to go deeply into the imagining of the Shiva Lingam, this powerful Shiva Lingam, which is the creative power of existence itself, that through the Shiva Lingam, all of this leela of life, this play of life, is manifested into the world. And to re-embrace the Shiva Lingam and its capacity to manifest life and energy into the world. For a man to reclaim this aspect of his being, the Shiva Lingam, and his play in the creation and manifesting of life, will take him very deeply into the moment, will take him very deeply into his bliss and into his joy, as he reclaims his capacity to give and to allow the giving that wants to move through his being. And this is the meditation of the Shiva Lingam. And this is where men find their joy and their ecstasy. And in the giving, then the heart energy, the heart area, the heart chakra, is able to open and receive the love of this moment of their beloved. And their beloved is received. Their love is received. And then it alchemizes into the love that manifests into this leela, into this play of existence itself. And as a man reclaims his lingam, his energy begins to flow fully through his being again, and his orgasm expands throughout his being and into life. And in this expansive orgasm, so his love expands and flows through his being. And he gets to meet the showering of his love and of his being in this moment. And thus you meet your ecstasy and your presence. Namaste. In the old temple, the Tantrikas would first meet in their separate chambers before they came together in their lovemaking, in their delicious SkyDancing. And what the men and women did in these separate chambers was they felt where their energy was in that day. They began to expand it, call it more into the body. They evoked the feminine and the masculine deep within themselves. And then they went and met one another in their lovemaking. This tantric lovemaking looked quite different to the habit of lovemaking that we find in the culture today. Usually, when people begin lovemaking, they begin with kissing and slowly work themselves down. In Tantra, we begin at the root chakra. We begin with the Yoni, with the woman, opening the Yoni so that her receptivity, her allowing of the energy begins to flow, and that way, when her openness has been called, then she calls in the energies very strongly, and the lingam of the man will respond to her openness, and the energy will start to flow very strongly in his lingam. And as they meet in the lovemaking, the woman is in her receptivity, openness, receiving the energy. The lingam is in the giving of the energy. In the lingam's giving of the energy and the yoni's receiving of the energy begins to slowly move up in the woman's body until finally she'll begin to move into the orgasm of the heart. And in this expanded orgasm, this is the tantric expanded orgasm, the flowering of the orgasm in the woman, where the energy begins to flow from her heart in a showering of love, in the showering of the orgasmic space. And in this showering of love, the man in his receptive heart space will receive the love showering from the woman. As the man receives the love in the openness of his heart, he then gives the love to the woman again through the lingam. And so this circle of love begins to flow between the two tantrikas in their lovemaking. When the energy becomes very strong, the tantrikas enter the SkyDancing position of Tantra. And this is when the man lies on his back, solid, like a rock, where the woman can dance. And he's solid as a rock on his back, she's on top of him, and the energy begins to flow through her being and begins to overflow from the heart in a powerful and deep showering of energy and love. And then the energy begins to move into her hands and into the rest of the body, and a dancing starts to happen in her being. And this is the SkyDancing of Tantra, as the woman's energy overflows into her entire being. And she's no longer thinking, she's no longer trying. She's simply in the dance. The dance is her. And she finds in this moment her utter surrender to existence, her utter surrender to this flow of love, to this flow of joy, to her ecstasy, as it dances her, as it dances this moment. And the circle of love holds the space. And as tantrikas enter this deep practice and they find the circle of love within them, they will also find this circle of love within themselves as they enter the moment, as they meet the beloved, as they meet existence itself. And in every moment, they find this lovemaking. In every moment, they find this bliss. Tantrikas are also very aware of how strongly the woman's body wants to take the ejaculation of the man, on a biological level but also on an energetic level. The ejaculate is a very strong energetic substance, and the woman's body wants it. So she has to bring her deep awareness to not try and draw this from the man. Otherwise the lovemaking may end very soon. And the man too, to relax into the lovemaking completely and not aim for some end goal where the ejaculation happens, and drop the idea that ejaculation is the peak of lovemaking. So this is an important practice for tantrikas, so they can spend much time in the lovemaking, going deeper and deeper into themselves, into this delicious energy, into this delicious love, and into this moment. An old tantric ritual that is very helpful to deepen your awareness in the tantric lovemaking is when you meet your beloved, to first meet in silence and meditation together, entering into a deep silence, into a deep emptiness. And from the stillness, from the silence, then you find the delicious movement and flow of wherever the lovemaking wants to go, without any idea or judgment. And after you found this flow, when the lovemaking finally meets its completion, you enter into prayer together and you thank existence for whatever the lovemaking was, regardless of what happened. You enter into the gratitude for this meeting, for this lovemaking.
Behind me in the distance, you'll see fires burning. These are the burning huts of Varanasi, where when someone dies in Varanasi, within about 6 to 7 hours, the body is brought here and burnt till ashes. And this brings us to an important part of Tantra, around death. The biggest fear in life is death. Death of yourself, because of the unknown that comes, and death of those that you love. And yet we all have to face this final curtain, this last gateway, this absolute unknown. And though many people on earth claim they know what happens after you die, and you can have many beliefs about that, what truly happens, what is known, is that this body does die. This beautiful body that serves us day in and day out eventually perishes. And as I was watching the burning huts a moment ago, that was the sadness that I felt, that this friend, our body, will die and it will be burnt to ashes. There is a deeper fear beyond the death of the body, and that's the ultimate death of yourself, of your very being. That most people have found some kind of belief to avoid ever thinking that this were possible. But on the tantric path, we confront this death, the death of the ego. We start to look at our many different beliefs that we have. Beliefs we don't like, but we have them, or beliefs that we deeply cherish and love. Beliefs we have about beauty and love and truth. Beliefs we have about each other. Beliefs we have about relationship and family. All these beliefs that somehow we think these beliefs are the sum total of who we are. And when you start to confront these beliefs and you find out that they don't have much to do with the moment and they begin to fall away or die, it can feel like the core of your essence is also dying. For you to find the truth of your life, the truth of your expression, you have to be willing to let the false die. And this is when your life truly begins. When the life of who you are truly begins. You have to follow the path and find all the false learning you've received about who you are and who your being is. And these are the ego deaths. As you hit another false layer or structure of your being, another ego death happens. Until finally there's a complete dissolution, a complete dissolving of all the structures, and you meet the place of no mind, and then your presence arises. In the last death, in the final death of ego, is when you truly meet life for the first time, when you truly meet presence and existence. So it's hard to speak of death because our mind thinks death means something that's finished or final or gone. But in the death on the tantric path, it means meeting yourself and your life and your being. It means meeting your very essence. But the way there can be very difficult and very fear-based, very scary for the ego. But without this path, without going to look at what is real and what is false, you can never find the truth of your being. For anything false, anything that only the false can die, nothing else dies except that which is false within your own being. And as you step into that courage and willingness to walk through the gateway of the ego death, for the first time you find your wings and you find that there is nothing in existence to not trust, to not accept, to not be in love with. And in this final surrender, you step into the flow of the river of existence and you find yourself in the ocean of your own being. Namaste. In Tantra, we speak a lot about the feminine and the masculine energies, and there's much practice that involves these feminine and masculine energies. And this is actually an essential part of Tantra, a profound part of Tantra. What's interesting about these energies is how they shift as they grow in your awareness. So when you first meet these energies, well, when I first met them, what I understood was the feminine was the receptive womb of existence where everything came through, and the masculine was the Shiva Lingam, or the manifestation of existence into the moment. So that's what I understood. But then as I started to go deeper and deeper into Tantra, I found out that the feminine and the masculine start having different roles, and they start looking a little different to that. I found as the feminine energy rose and the dancing started to happen in me, the feminine energy also had an aspect of what looked like doing or manifesting into the world. And then at that point, the masculine became softer, like a simple presence. The first aspect of the masculine energy we meet is the aspect of the Shiva Lingam, or if you have the image of a plant, imagine the root or the Shiva Lingam going deep down into the earth, seeking existence itself, so the energy of existence can start to enter the root and help the plant to start in its growth. So that's the great giving and the physical doing of the masculine energy, the manifesting of the Shiva Lingam into existence. The feminine at this place is a deep receptive energy that calls the energy of existence in. So the masculine is going deep into existence, seeking the energy, and the feminine is saying yes to it and opening to it to allow it in. So of course, the giving aspect of the masculine must be allowed in oneself, and the receptive aspect or the opening aspect of the feminine also allowed. So the energy of existence can be received and the plant can begin to grow. As this awareness is understood and allowed, and you begin to work in these energies consciously, the energy will start to move upwards in your being. The plant starts to grow, the stem starts to grow upwards. And then you come to the area of around the belly, around the hara or the second chakra. And this area has got everything to do with family, friends, essentially your tribe. All your beliefs and your conditioning around your family and tribe, all your beliefs and your conditioning around how you give love, how you receive love, how you give nourishment, and how you receive nourishment. So you will find many different beliefs and mind happening in this aspect of being that have got very little or nothing to do with the true source of love or nourishment and the true receiving and giving of love and nourishment. But for some time you will spend a lot of time in this area of your being uncovering these many beliefs you've been given, uncovering the many lies you've been given about this area. Such things as seeking approval, trying to fit in, trying to work your way through the tribe, find your place in the tribe. You'll also work out in this place of your being, your romantic relatings with one another. How you bring all the learnings of love you received from your mother and father, what it is to love your partner, you're going to bring into your romantic relatings and have to unravel these and work these out and find the truth of relating and the truth of love. And as you unravel these and as you work them through, you eventually start to come and find that the source of love is right here within you. And it isn't coming from outside of you, from the tribe, the family, the friends, the lover, the partner. It is within you. And as this realization deepens and you start to find the source of love within you, a great energy begins to rise even further into your being until you get to the solar plexus region, which is around the power dynamics of existence. And the word power has many negative connotations, and for good reason, because as awareness begins to move into the power dynamic and the plant now starts to form a bud of energy which is going to spring open into a flowering, this energy has tremendous potential. And what most
people do with it in terms of their conditioning and culture is they start to play political games, positional games, trying to find higher position in the culture, higher place in their community, and they start to play off each other because they don't quite understand that this power is for their realization, their flowering, that it's got really nothing to do with their position next to somebody else or in terms of the community. But these games are actually really important because they show you the false ideas of your mind around power, around scarcity of energy, around who you think you should be or what's important in your living and your expression. Is it more important that you have a higher position in your community, or is it more important that the flowering of your being opens and the expansion of your love? So these power plays become very important because they reveal so much of your conditioning and your beliefs and the lie you've been told about who you are. But as this awareness starts to deepen in your being, and you start to find out what this energy, this power is actually about, that it's actually meant for your own delightful, beautiful flowering, and you start saying yes to this, tathiyata, to this power in your being, so the flowering starts to happen. And this is when you meet a different aspect of the realized feminine and the realized masculine. The masculine here becomes a deep receptive space, where in the flower it's the stamen that receives the pollen and then creates seeds and much flowering and expansion happens. So the masculine energy, instead of being that creative force into existence, becomes a still receptive space, an open-hearted space. And the feminine, the petals open, her nectar, her pollen, the nectar of the flower begins to rise, and the wind comes and takes the nectar, the bees come, the insects come. And the feminine energy becomes the dancing of Shakti, the dancing of Lalla. This great dancing of the feminine happens, which looks far more active than the initial receptive uterus that we met a while back. And so now the energy of the feminine is in a different play of existence. And in the integration, in the meeting of these two, in the great lovemaking of the masculine and the feminine energy, the flowering and expansion of existence happens within you. And in that, the celebration happens. Existence celebrates through you, and the being celebrates. The expansion of love happens. The expansion of being happens in this allowing, in this depth of awareness. Lalla the Buddha is born, and all of existence sings. The realization of the feminine when she's in her dancing in existence, giving her nectar to all. This is the Lalla. And the stillness, the receptivity, and the presence of the masculine energy. This is the realization of the Buddha. And from Lalla, her celebration comes from her silence. And we see her celebration. And in Buddha, his silence comes from his celebration. And we see his silence. But in Tantra, Lalla and Buddha meet. The eternal union, the ultimate lovemaking. And we see the dancing of Lalla and the silence of Buddha. One moment the dancing is there, the next moment is silent. They move from within to without to within. Lalla the Buddha is born within. The lotus of your being opens. And all of existence celebrates. All of existence sings. I'm sitting on top of the world. The Himalayas are all around me. The great energy of this place is deep and old and full. It has been quite delicious to be here. But to get here has been a very, very long journey through India. Through 42 degrees Celsius and dust. Everything you could imagine, we've met in India. As you will meet everything you can imagine and not imagine on your journey through Tantra. And what I've tried to do in this story of Tantra is tell you a little bit about why the next step and how this can be of use. In a way, I've tried to explain Tantra to you a little, or when you explain something, you make it plain, or you flatten it, like a map. I've tried to give you a map of sorts. But now take a moment to imagine what it is if I give you a map of the Himalayas behind me. Now you got your map, and you can look at the map and you can understand, oh, from this point it's best to go to that point, and perhaps from that point best to go to that. And you can understand quite well, and you can take your map. But when you get to the Himalayas, you're going to need a guide. Just like in Tantra, it's a terrain you've never met before, that you do not know. So it's very important that you find a guide who has been into the Himalayas, that knows the mountains well, who has a deep awareness, who has a deep love for the mountains. And the mountains love the guide. So that this guide can help you as you walk on your journey to find the different ways up to the peaks of the mountain, until your awareness or your viewing or your seeing of this existence becomes expansive as you reach new heights. So this is very important before you enter these Himalayas. Find a guide who's the lover of these mountains. And the next thing that's really important is, because you're entering an unknown land, you need to come to this land empty, willing to learn the ways of this land. If you bring your knowledge of previous lands to it, you will miss. So it's really important that even though you come with some kind of map, you leave your knowledge behind, because as you enter into the unknown, the knowledge of the past cannot serve you. In fact, it will only hinder you. As you reach some deep chasm in the mountain, and you wish to leap over it, but you've never met such a chasm before, with such length and such mystery, and you try and bring some knowledge from the past, it's more than likely you'll fall. But if you can enter that moment and meet that chasm as it is, without the past knowledge, you'll find your way over it. As you meet these chasms along the way, there's going to be some that you're going to look at it and you're going to go, no way. There's no way I can get over this. I'm done with this journey. This is ridiculous. If I jump this, I fall. It's the end of me. And there's these moments for everyone on the path. And sometimes the best thing is to just take a moment, maybe a week, a month, 6 months, and sit. And notice where you have walked, where your awareness has deepened, the beauty you've met on the way. Notice where you've been. Try not move into self-blame or self-judgment, because this will only contract you further from the moment and make it more difficult for you to find the leap over that chasm. So take a moment, have a seat, have a smoke. And then you'll find the way over, around, you'll take that leap. Then the awareness will come to you of how to take this leap over this aspect of the journey, over this aspect of your mind, over this aspect of your resistance to the moment. You'll find your way through. But know that it will happen again and again, and it will happen to anyone on the journey. It's not personal. There's no self-blame. It's simply the journey is about meeting your resistance to the moment and then finding your way through it or over it. That's what Tantra is about. So it's okay. You're going to meet those many, many times. And when you start meeting the really big ones, you're actually getting closer to the truth of who you are. This journey will lead you to your being without lies, without the false conditioning you've been given. It will lead you to the truth of who you are, to the truth, the beauty, and the love of who you are. And then you will meet this moment from that place, in your utter presence, in your utter flowering and capacity to simply be here without any no. Have a wonderful journey. Namaste, beloveds.
This day is mine today. Hela, hela, I feel fine. My life is full of clouds and sunshine, and I know that this day is mine today.